Hi, I'm Wayne from Australian Earthmoving. Today I'm really excited to be sitting with a good friend of mine, but also a face that many of you will be familiar with. I will say the legendary David Hazell from Onetrak, Managing Director of Onetrak. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, Wayne. Thank you.
Tell me about Onetrak and a bit more about who you are and where you're from, what you do.
Yep, so I'm the Managing Director of Onetrak, and Onetrak, the distributor of heavy off-road equipment in Australia for forestry, construction and material processing machines. We started the business in Tasmania in 2006, so we're in our 18th year this year, and I'm the Managing Director of the organisation.
Yeah, congratulations. There's been a lot of achievements, specifically in the last few years as well. You know, the growth has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
We're sitting in the Sydney branch today, which is your newest branch, and I was here for the celebrations of that.
Yep.
All looks like it's running very smoothly and coming along.
Yep, it is.
Prior to 2006, so your involvement in the earth moving industry, or particularly around machines, goes back somewhat further, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
How far back?
Well, I was born next to a transport and earth moving operation that was back in those days. My father's father, my grandfather Donald, and his brother Rolly Hazell were the directors of a company called Hazell Brothers in Tasmania that are quite well known today. So I've virtually always been around bulldozers and tractors and trucks. That's kind of the DNA, I suppose.
Isn't that the dream for any little kid? Or?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I probably didn't realise at the time, but because it was always there. But yes, so many kids would have been so envious of what I had at the start. Yeah.
So tell me about Hazell Brothers. Who they're somewhat they've been a formidable organisation for many years, but where are they sitting now? But I'm sure many people are no stranger to Hazell Brothers, but for those that are not, the beginnings, the mid-tier and where they're at now?
Yeah, so Hazell Brothers are a very successful company, and today it's owned by my father Robert and my uncle Jeffrey. Onetrak are a separate entity to Hazell Brothers these days, of course, but I did work in the business for 15 full-time years. And Hazell Brothers is a very successful Tier 1 civil contracting organisation. They do large infrastructure projects, bridges, roads, basically anything with infrastructure. They're heavily involved with quarries and extractive industries. They're very strong in concrete in that space there, and still have the traditional earth moving and transport fleets that really where the business started back in the 40s and 50s.
So when you went to school, was that always part of the plan, or growing up were you going to be an artist or a pilot? Or?
No, I think Mum wanted me to be a school teacher, but that was never going to happen. No, I think I was always going to work in the family business, always going to work in the family business. And Grandpa would always put his hand on our shoulders and say that you're going to come and work in the business, and that's just what we were always going to do. We never thought about doing anything else. That was what we did. So
there was no plan B, which, and again, I'm sure that they wouldn't have had to twist your arm too much.
No, I loved it. And the first job I actually took when I left school was I actually worked on one of the family farms for 12 months and drove tractors and put up fences and worked with sheep of all things. And
cool.
I had a ball there for 12 months. It was great. And then they brought me into the reality, and I just shoved me into the quarry and said, you're going to have to do this and drive these machines. And that was great too. But, that's how I started,
Yeah. The farm life would have been a nice path to go down, but...
Terrific. Yeah, it was lovely, but...
No.
But anyway, not for me. No.
So what were you doing in the quarry?
I started in the mobile mobile crushing space, and they still do. And back in those days, I was doing crushing road base in the forest for Forestry Tasmania back in those days, and progressed through to the fixed plant up at Leslievale, about 30 km south of Hobart, where. I drove salve loaders and all the plant, the crushers, the primary, the haul trucks. I had short stints in some of them, but I had a baptism of fire in all of them, So
back then, that would have been hard yakka. The machines you were using were, not anything like these.
No air conditioning. The loader was an old Cat 950B that was. You had the windows cracked open on, and it was probably 3 sizes too small for the job, but it was probably bigger than the one they had before doing the job and things like that. So, and I can remember sitting in the tertiary crusher a little welded up box with one window in it. You had to watch the rock going into the top of the cone and just watch an ant gauge and try and push the limits of it without letting it trip out, you know. And that was a long day sitting in that box, I can tell you.
Watching the rock.
Just shaking like that all day, yeah. But they were the things we did back in the 80s.
That's how it worked, and but that's got to give you a good understanding of the industry and where it was then, how the role is done, and where it is now as well.
Yeah,
which has to help.
You don't think things change much in any given year, but you think back over a decade or two, and we've moved light years, haven't we, as an industry? So.
Mind-blowing, on so many levels.
Yeah.
So how long were you in the quarry for?
I think I had 12 months in the quarry, working all the facets there, and I ended up doing 4 years in the concrete space at another time, which is virtually an adjunct to the quarry. And it was good because I learned batching, frontline management, how to sell, drove the trucks. It was a good all-round job, and I had a good mentor there, and Hugh Winslow that would really put a bit of time into me, and it was a great time in my personal development.
And so what were your roles there? All of the above?
It was a very small team. We started with 4 concrete trucks. Today, Hazell Brothers has got hundreds of them, or certainly tens of trucks.
Yeah.
But back in those days, we were all hands on deck, and we were doing bigger things than we were actually capable of doing. We all got in and got it done. It was a really fun time. It was really like starting a new business within an existing business, you know. So it was business development and doing some stuff that I was part of a greenfield thing. Even though the business was at that stage 50 odd years old, I was doing something new. It was good.
Yeah. So you must have played a part in that, I suppose, in the coming up with the concepts and so on.
Yeah, well, yeah, we chased markets together, we quoted stuff together, but I was really a 2IC, and I started as Dad said to me, look, Hughes just started with us, go up and learn at a bachelor of concrete so you can have a sub day off occasionally. And 4 years later I was still there, you know, so that's how that kind of worked. But I really enjoyed that time. But I also spent a significant chunk of time in the earth moving business and drove excavators full time for a couple of years, and then worked through the earth moving dispatch role, and then earth moving supervisor, earth moving management, and eventually earth moving transport and waste business manager was a role I had, I think, at one stage before I moved on to some project roles.
Sure. Yeah. So what was the next step?
In Hazell Brothers still?
Well, yeah. What were the projects?
Oh, well, for example, there were there were 13 bulldozers we purchased from North Forest Products and did all their roading and their site preparation works. We project managed cutting of trees, of all things, around high voltage power lines, and employed some people there. We're trying. The 90s were, but this is the 90s by now.
Yep.
Particularly hard. You're just trying to create some income. You know, trying to do something a little bit different. And some of those projects they don't do today, so it was a little bit outside of the core model. But they were the sorts of things I was doing towards the end of my tenure.
So why was it particularly hard? What was happening in the 90s that made it that hard?
I think we had minority governments. The Greens were in there. The 90s, I think, were tough everywhere, but Tasmania was probably doing it a bit tougher than everywhere because of our state government at the time.
Tassie is very, it sort of pushes and pulls. Politics probably affects it more than anywhere else in the country, really, doesn't it?
We seem to be that pawn for the rest of the country when it comes to it, yeah.
Well, just with the industries, you do seem to be. Was it following that you left the business?
Yeah, and I said to my father Robert and Uncle Jeffrey, look, I've been here for 15 years. It feels like longer than that. I just feel like I've been contained in this bubble called the family. Yep. I want to break out and see what's out there, and they supported that. And to be honest, I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just went and applied for a couple of jobs. I did a bit of contracting and stuff just to fill in a bit of time. But I picked up a job as the CEO of the Tasmanian Forest Contractors Association, which is an association that represents forest, harvest and haul contractors. And I signed on to that for 3 years. So that was the role I did after Hazell Brothers. Yeah,
so really threw yourself into the fire, just following what I was saying politically.
Oh yeah, no, it was interesting. I mean,
That's a tough gig.
I didn't fully understand the role, to be honest. I knew contracting, I knew a bit about forest contractors or contractors in general, but there was a lot of TV interviews and government representation of our industry sector at government and advisory boards and things like that. So unqualified for that, yes. Learned a lot, bloody hell. But I mean, I knew that I didn't want to make a career out of that, because that's typically a role you take to go through to a political pathway.
Right,
you know? And I had no aspiration, still have no aspiration to do that. So, but I got a lot out of it, and I said to the guys, look, I don't know if this is my role, but I committed to 3 years. I'm going to give you 3 years. So we trained people on chainsaw licences. We did payroll for people. You know, it was a typical industry association representing businesses.
And I'm sure there were some good times with that as well.
Oh yeah, some cracking times. And a lot of those people that we supported back then, ironically, I find myself that they're actually customers of ours now,
Right.
Onetrak. So, and a lot of good friends in that space.
We'll touch on that later because you've gone back into the forestry. Is that due to your experience in it, or is it something that came? How on earth did that?
Well, when we started Onetrak, we started as a sub dealer for Hyundai in Tasmania, and if you're a Tasmanian in a regional community that's got a lot of primary industry, forestry is part of it, and we were converting excavators for forestry, and we were, I suppose, even then 30% of everything we sold went into some sort of primary industry forestry application by default. And when we were expanding to Melbourne with that particular franchise, we started to get approached by international OEMs that manufacture forestry gear. You know, Ponce was the first one, then Logset, and eventually Tigercat approached us, and that started a whole new phase for the business. You know, because it's a fantastic product and it was a great opportunity. And I suppose we were attractive because we're in the two southeastern states where the most amount of trees are and forestry were at the time, and we had a background in some forestry exposure, and we were reasonably well known in that space.
Yeah. Let's take a step back to one of the biggest pivotal moments.
Yeah.
Onetrak. You glossed over when we started Onetrak.
Right.
So you left forestry.
I left the Tasmanian Forest Contractors Association role as the CEO in 2006.
Yep.
And again, I just wasn't ready to go back to the family business. And it's funny because the Hazell brothers had bought 6 Hyundai machines.
Okay.
And they bought them off a dealer in Queensland because the Victorian dealer at the time didn't want to warrant them, and there was no dealer for Hyundai in Tasmania. And Dad sort of said to me, half joking, they ought to become the dealer for Hyundai because they're not bad machines, and blah, blah, blah. I went and had a look at them. I thought, never even seen a Hyundai excavator before. And fast forward, I managed to get the rights to be the dealer for Hyundai in Tasmania. That's how Onetrak became.
Right.
That's how it started,
Yep.
I mean, today Hyundai aren't a very big business at all for us. We were a sub-dealer still for Tasmania, but we do all these other things now nationally.
Sure. So what was it? What did it look like back then? The Tasmanian dealership, what, a back shed in Hazell Brothers, or?
No. We were fortunate to pick up a site that it was formerly Midland Tractors site. Okay. So on the main road on the Highway number 1.
Is that where you are now?
Just down the road from there, but the original site wasn't far up the road.
Right.
It was an older building, 1970s infrastructure, but it had a nice sized shed, small office, plenty of hard stand, and a prominent front fence. So it was a good little site for us. It really was. We're fortunate enough to get that. We came up with the name Onetrak. My wife still says that she came up with that rather than me, but anyway, it was a bit of conjecture there. I think she might have beat me, but we came up with the name Onetrak. Slapped the sign on the front fence.
We're on camera. We can't have that argument now.
Slapped
Her idea.
Her idea, that's right, she wins. Slapped the Onetrak sign on the front fence, and it was myself and a guy called Andy Stacey that started. He started with me as a parts interpreter, chief bottle washer, a detailer, website designer and everything, and I went out and tried to sell things. He did the back of house stuff, and that's how we started. I wanted something with the word track in it.
Yep. For obvious reasons. For
obvious reasons, and I thought, no, maybe Onetrak, and I googled that, and someone else already had Onetrak, and she said Onetrak, and I said, yeah, that's good. Googled that, and that was free. So so we're number 1 with track machines is the background behind the name. Yeah.
Right, and like you said, the Hyundais. I mean, they are a good machine, but having just a good machine doesn't make a successful dealership.
No, it doesn't. We worked hard, and I think we were pretty in touch with the market, and it was home, and I was fortunate enough to be known by a lot of forestry contractors by default, and certainly some people within the family circles. So we leapt to a great start. I enjoyed doing the sales back in those days, with the freedom of driving around and doing sales, and within 18 months, Nick Barnsdale from Porter Group, or HCR was called back in those days, said, I want to see you. I thought, well, I'm in trouble, what's going on? And he said, no, I just want to see when I get down. And she came down and saw me. He said, look, I didn't want to talk to you about this over the phone, but he said, would you consider doing Victoria as well? I thought, that's what, and we did.
Yes.
Great opportunity, I thought, but my word, that was a quantum step from going from 6 or 7 people in Tasmania to Victoria as well. And that was Interesting journey. We did that on the 2nd of January 2008, which was nearly only 18 months after the start of the business in Tasmania. Very, very quick, too quick arguably. But we learned a lot, we made a few mistakes, we got through all that. But what it did, it created us, I guess, the vehicle, a bit more size to be able to attract the sort of opportunities that came to us like Tiger Cat in the end. Because just in Tasmania alone, I don't think that would have been an option. But, 2 states, growing young company, I think it was probably it created opportunities for us.
Let's cover the branches, the growth of them, because I want to talk about Tiger Cat, but there's also several brands to cover as well. So following Victoria, you've now, in 18 months, got 2 dealerships, which is phenomenal.
Crazy,
it is.
Probably crazy,
Bit of both, but it worked.
Bit of both, yeah.
We're here telling the story.
That's right.
Worked.
Yeah.
I'm sure it sounds easy now that we're sitting here saying, oh, well, now you've got 8 dealerships, but I want to tell this story because it's hard work, it's sleepless nights, it's...
Many.
Yeah,
many.
It's after you've made that ballsy, insane decision, what made you go again?
Well, it was a tough time, and I should say that when we started in 2008, and we're now in 2 branches, I always said to my wife, I love you dearly, we're never going to work together. 3 months into that, I said, Darren, I need to come work for me because I need some help. So she came, and she only just had our now 16-year-old son, Riley.
Right.
So she's backwards and forwards on a plane with me most weeks, and it was just what families do when you need to get things done. But it wasn't a particularly easy period. I was in Tasmania and Victoria, backwards and forwards, you see.
Wow.
So, but we did that, and we got through all that clearly. And then where did the next expansion come from? Well, it was probably through the Tiger Cat opportunity, because Tiger Cat approached us, and we started our association with Tiger Cat just doing Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania in 2011. And that was all we needed, our 2 branches. 12 months later, the dealer was covering the other states, the Forest Centre, decided to leave the industry or change. And the Tiger Cat franchise was now up for grabs nationally. And we were fortunate enough, I guess, to be standing in the right position. And with the assistance of Tiger Cat, took it on nationally. So then now we, with cooperation with the Forest Centre, we leased their office in Tumut in New South Wales, and their office in Bunbury at the time in WA. So we've now got 4 branches. And forestry is a significant part of our business now, so which I wasn't unhappy about. I enjoyed it as well, so it fitted really well. And then we looked at one of the major forested areas in commercial forestry in Australia is the Green Triangle of Mount Gambier in Portland. Right. There was a sub-agent there for us. We decided to move in there on our own rights. Then the Mount Gambier operation became, which was about 2014 or thereabouts.
This is fast.
It stacked up pretty quickly. Yeah, it did. When you think back, I suppose it was. And we ran like that for a couple of 3 years, and then we thought, because there's a bit of forestry in Brisbane, we had some good clients up there, that we'll move into Brisbane. We moved into Rockley to start with, which we'll make mistakes. It wasn't the right space for us. Okay. So we broke the lease there 3 years in and moved up to Caboolture, north of Brisbane, which is a much better site for our business. And it's 40 minutes away from the airport. It gives you access through the Bruce Highway straight up into all those regional forestry sort of areas, and we can still come back into Brisbane in 40 minutes and service all that. So it's really worked out quite well.
So was that the plan? Did you map it out and say, right, we want to have all these dealerships, or was it opportunities that you saw and you went, hey, we need to grow there? What's the thought process?
I think because by now we've got several franchises in the tent. We didn't have Anaconda at that stage, but we certainly had started discussions with Hydromec, our construction franchise. We were a striker agent for the mobile plant at that stage. Damo rock breakers, Dresser bulldozers. There's an expectation that to have the exclusive rights for those franchises, you have some national coverage. Sure. Yeah. So we were always intended to expand, and Brisbane at that stage was the most logical place to go for us. Right.
How many branches? We know you've got 8. Where are the branches? I'll put you on the spot now.
Yeah, right. I hope I can remember them. So we got obviously the original one at Bridgewater. Northeast Tasmania is Burnie or Somerset. There's one there. The Melbourne branch is at Hallam. Yes. New South Wales, we're in Tumut, at the foot of the Snowy Mountains, and we're also here at Moorebank in Sydney. Yes. We're at Caboolture in Queensland. Yep. In South Australia, we're in Mount Gambier, and we moved the branch from Bunbury down to Albany in Western Australia a couple of years ago. So,
Right.
so that's the 8 branches.
Right. Crazy.
It is.
But, you know, that's an amazing setup. And I know that benefits contracts. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, benefits contractors. If they've got a machine in New South Wales and they can get service, you know, they might land a gig anywhere around the country now. They can get that service. They can get, you know, I'm sure they can get parts air freighted, but having a dealer support has to help them.
It's very much part of our model. You know, it doesn't matter where you take that machine. We need to be able to service it. Now, clearly, if you're away from our branch, we'll get a service. One of our service boys there or girls, but we want national coverage for our franchises, and we're filling those gaps as we grow.
I know a few years back now, but when I went to Tasmania, you showed me some brand new service trucks.
Yeah.
And you were more excited to show me those than anything else, because you were saying with these somewhat new brands at the time, people are buying them. They need that confidence to buy them, and we need to have confidence that we're going to show them the support. That seemed to be, the service and support seemed to be a bigger focus than anything at the time. That's how it appeared to me. Why is that so important?
I think some of that goes right back to the contracting days when we was a contractor or work in the contracting business, because you understand when somebody lets you down, or downtime, you see something, you see when you can't get a part, how much that really affects your business. And when you're starting a new business like Onetrak and we're representing brands that are, they're not all the biggest brands, everybody's got a magnifying glass on you. So you've got to make sure the service you give them is 100% spot on. If it's not spot on, you're trying to be spot on every time, and you invest every cent you make back in parts and infrastructure. So I can't remember that discussion about the service truck then, but I would have been proud, because that's another physical tool, an expensive tool with another very valued technician out there servicing our valued clients. And that's what we've always disproportionately invested in, the after sales part of our business.
Yeah, I know every dealership offers service. Of course they do. You have to. You're not in business if you don't. But I've never seen any service department quite like that, with such a focus and such pride in the service as well. So
thank you.
And it's important, obviously, and it was important to you for obvious reasons. And it's subsequently, you didn't have 8 branches then. It's paid off because the growth has continued to be astounding.
That's right.
On the brands you represent, of course, Tiger Cat, we've talked about Tiger Cat. What are the brands that you now represent?
We talked about Tiger Cat, but I must say Tiger Cat is such a fantastic product. The people that work at Tiger Cat astound me. You know, Ken McDonald, the owner, and Donna, they just, it's a family environment where they've got 2,500 people. It's how they've done that, I don't know. It's incredible. Yeah. But they're actually widening their range all the time, from not just traditional commercial harvesting equipment to high-speed grinders, mulchers, rubber-tied and track versions, biochar machines. So it's all starting to widen, and it's starting to transgress into our other products, like we'll be doing waste and recycling and crushing and screening with some of our brands like Anaconda, another key brand or organisation. We brought Anaconda into the business because of their screens and conveyors and their access to the crushing and screening market that would give Onetrak, and complement another one of our franchises in Striker, where they do the more heavy impactors and jaws. I
mean, that's phenomenal gear. That's got to be top of the tree when it comes to that segment. It's really... Is that something that's been strategic? I've got to ask, because all of the machines that you've got, Anaconda, as far as screeners go, as the Striker stuff, that's top of the tree. Are you aiming for that high end?
We're aiming for stuff that's... we don't sell rubbish. No. It's all good quality stuff. But we don't sell either stuff that's over-engineered for the application. It's good quality, easy to work on gear that gets the job done with a minimal fuss. That's it. So, and there are more sophisticated products in some corners, and more heavy electronics and things in some products than maybe some of our brands or franchises or models have. But this is the mainstream stuff that gets the job done. And we back it up well, and it goes to work and earns our customers money. So it's not necessarily about trying to find the most sophisticated piece of equipment in the world to bring in. It's about the stuff that's going to fit the Australian market the best and go to work and make people money.
I'm looking at Anaconda because I'm sitting on an Anaconda, but the Hydromex, Hydromex, I say Hydromex, you say Hydromex?
I say both, yeah.
The clunk of the doors, they're a heavy-duty machine.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, all of the gear appears to be...
It's well built. It's well built.
Yeah.
And we looked, when we were looking to go national with our, because with forestry taken us national at this point, and we've gone national with our crushing and screening ranges with Striker and Anaconda, and the Dresser Bulldozer thing was a national opportunity. So when we went to go to a construction franchise to complement everything else we do with our national model now, we looked at other excavators. We looked at other loaders in the world, and we continually came back to Hydromec because it's exceptionally well built.
Yeah.
You know, it's been born in an extremely harsh environment, but it's also got that European finish and the finesse of a high-end machine. So it ticks both boxes for us, and we put them in some extremely hard applications, and they hold it very well. But at the same time, if you put an operator in them that wants finite control through the levers and the RCVs and wants to be able to final trim, they bring that as well. So they fit into our organisation very well as well.
Yeah, and a large range of machines too.
A very quickly expanding range. Even in our short time with the Anaconda, with Hydromec, they've brought in zero swing excavators, the greater lines out through their acquisition of Mitsubishi, compactions now with us as well, and they're developing a 6.5 tonne excavator and a compact radius 23.5 tonne machine to be released within the next 12 months. So it moves very fast. It moves very fast. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not a new brand. They're established. No. They're, like you say, all the European build quality.
Yeah. The business is 45 years old.
Yeah.
Hydromec, yeah.
Just Mitsubishi. I don't think anyone's a stranger to Mitsubishi graders. So.
No. Very popular in Australia back a few years ago.
Yeah. So. Which Hydromec have acquired. So. Yeah. And there's, well, they're newer machines. They're the upgraded versions, but you can see they haven't come from a new concept. They're experienced.
They're not generation 1, they're generation 6 graders, and the DNA's from Mitsubishi, but Hydromec's refinement and then more modern, manufacturing processes. So they've built an exceptionally good grader too, which is very well suited the Australian market.
So tell me, what do customers like about Dresser dozers?
I think at the end of the day, it's a simple machine that'll go to work, very, very low operating costs, fuel efficient, simplicity in the context of the drive system. I mean, obviously things like operator comfort and stuff are synonymous now with most major brands, but they've got all that as well. So I think back to my contracting days when we bought those 13 bulldozers when I was at Hazell Brothers. There was one Dresser there, and a heap of other Caterpillars. The Dresser was by far the cheapest to run in that fleet. Right. It just was. It just was, and it stood out to me at the time how good it was. And if you talk to a Dresser owner today, that's all they'll ever buy. It's a smaller market now for those traditional Dresser guys, but that's all they'll ever buy because they know just how reliable they are and easy to work on.
How funny you ended up representing them after.
I never thought I'd be doing that, did I? No.
Do you focus on industries in particular? Because you've got forestry, earth moving, waste and recycling.
Yeah, I mean, we really represent 3 industries today.
Okay.
Clearly forestry.
Yep.
We're a big player there. Construction, it's a massive market. We play there with our Hydromec range, we play there with our Dresser range, our Damo or Alicon rock breakers, and some of this other industrial stuff morphs into that as well, because contractors will buy a 14 by 10 scalping screen and things like that.
Sure.
The third industry we represent is, we call it material processing, but at the end of the day, it's really broken into 2 categories. It's crushing and screening gear, quarries,
sure.
And it's also the waste and recycling industry, where they're doing C&D and sorting materials. So I think as time goes on, we'll be trying to do more. Certainly, we'll always be strong in forestry, and we'll build the business around crushing and screening and waste and recycling, and bring those other construction products into those sectors to support them as required, so we can become a bit more specialist in that space.
Of course, of course. Because is it Fuchs in material processing? What brands have I missed? We've got Hydromec, Anaconda, Dresser.
But we haven't spoke about Fuchs, and Fuchs is a German manufactured product owned by the Terex Corporation now, and we've been associated with Fuchs for the best part of about 8 years now.
Okay.
Very high quality product. The application for that product is usually waste handling, scrap, timber handling, are the three applications, and of course we are in those three markets as well. So elevating cabs, long reach, in the right application, a material handler will save the client a lot of money in the context of fuel, higher stockpiles, better visibility and safer applications.
It's just forever growing.
Yeah, we don't really want to take on any more franchises today. It's about growing with the franchises that we have, because they are all expanding. I talked about how Tidecat have moved into and growing into more industrial products, mulchers and grinders and things like that, as well as their traditional harvesting equipment. I talked about how Hydromec have expanded their range in such a short period of time.
Crazy, yeah.
Anaconda, our Irish friends with the crushing and screening gear, have introduced jaw crushers and impact crushers, and we're releasing a cone crusher here this year. So they're expanding rapidly too. So we need to support them, give them the market share and exposure they deserve in the Australian market, and grow with them as well. So because you can't be everything to everybody, but we can absolutely grow with the products we've got.
This Sydney branch in particular, that's got to be a big milestone moment for the business. What does that mean to the not just Sydney customers, but to the business and to customers as a whole?
Yeah. Well, it puts us in the biggest capital city in Australia, which is important. It certainly helps us support our Sydney and wider New South Wales client base, which is important to us. And there are a lot of major accounts and head offices in Sydney. Now, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane third, but you've got to be in Sydney if you're going to be a true national distributor of off-road heavy equipment. And so strategically, it's really quite important for us to be here.
Being in Moorebank, was that strategic? Because you're right on the M5, it's very easy to get to.
This gear is, we know it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 tonnes and bigger. So you've got to get some fairly large trucks in with multiple axles, dollies, large prime movers. So getting close to an arterial roads is important for us.
Yep. And
getting good truck access into the branch is obviously clearly an important thing. But being close to major arterial roads is important. And we stock a large amount of national infantry here because we can go south, we can go north, we can go west from Sydney, so it makes sense.
I honestly, I could go on all day. What does the future hold? Where next? Because the growth has been insane. 18 months from one branch to two, and then the range of equipment, and in that space of time to be where you're at, that doesn't come by chance. That comes from good service, like we talked about, great machines, good people.
Great people, yeah. And we're very fortunate. We should talk about the people part of a business because it's so important to us. Yeah. We've got some really, really loyal people in this business that have been with us for a long time.
Yeah.
And we've got some product specialists and industry specialists that are just quite astound me, that the knowledge they've got and the dedication they provide to us. So we're very fortunate to have such a great team. But where does the future go for Onetrak? Look, clearly there'll be some more geographical expansion, Wayne, over time, and we're always looking at that. But probably a bit more work around the fact that we want to specialise a little bit more, clearly forestry. But I mentioned a little bit earlier, the crushing and screening aspect of what we do is a growth part of our business. The waste and recycling aspect of future opportunity is important to us. The circular economy is obviously very topical. There's a lot going on there. And then bringing our construction range into those three areas to support those three areas is really the model. So getting a bit more specialised in what we do. We're not just transactional sellers of heavy equipment. We want to provide our customers advice on how to use it, application experience, suggestions on how to get the best out of it. So not just transacting a sale and shaking their hand, taking a photo and seeing them later. Being actually entwined in the business as value-adding supplier of heavy equipment. So we're not just seen to be another supplier of heavy equipment. No, we want to be known to be the distribution, the dealer for quality brands that actually adds value to the customer's business, not just in supplying good gear, but supplying the right gear that'll do the right thing so they can make more money. That's the future. So a bit more work around how we specialise in those sectors is where the future is for us.
Yep. You do have good people. I'd consider some of your salespeople mates of mine.
Yep.
They're from different trade shows, and they're all passionate. They've all got that passion and a lot of the time experience. I don't know how you find them, but maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe they want to be part of a business that has that passionate background, has a good team. But
could be a bit of all those things, I suppose. You know good people, you hear good people in the industry, you go find them. We certainly try and look after them when we got them here because you want to keep them. That's important, particularly in a market like this. But I think we're actually not a bad business to work for. In the context, we're quite dynamic.
Right.
We're doing some pretty cool things. We're growing hugely rapidly, and we're trying to do more than just transact things. We want to get to know our customers and build value in what we sell. So I think for that reason, we're fortunate to have some really good people that work here that's so passionate about what they do. It makes the business what it is.
What's the one reason, if I was starting up a business, why would I buy from Onetrak? Why would I drive into here and knock on the door and get you guys to set me up? Or if I had an established business, why would I?
Because I think we care. You know, we're not the biggest competitor out there. We're just not. We're certainly by no means the smallest, but we actually genuinely care about good outcomes.
Yep.
And we want to see businesses succeed from the acquisition from us, and that adds value to their business. We want to make sure that they're supported well, you know, with the parts back up and the service technician back up, and that might sound disproportionate than what you need to do. That's what I'm passionate about. That's what our staff are passionate about. So if they come in to buy something off Onetrak, they'll get more than just a machine. They'll get solutions. They'll get a business partner, and they should make more money. Yep. That's why they should come and see Onetrak.
That's why they're a customer.
That's right.
They're not buying a fun toy as such.
No, that's right.
So, although some of these are pretty fun to climb over.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah,
but,
that's right.
I honestly, I could go on for hours. We do machine walkarounds. There's a new crusher that I really want to see, but I think we'll leave those for other videos.
Yep.
One last thing, what do you still get back on the farm? What do you do outside of work, surely? Or when you're not on a plane going to all the dealerships and... my wife said to me over Christmas, she said, you need to sit down, you're not going to relax. I said, I relax by tinkering around like most men and doing stuff in the shed and fixing things and doing stuff. But what do? I like to go for a walk and a bit of recreational sort of shooting. I ride off-road, and I got a motorbike I do a bit of road stuff with. None of these things a lot of. I got a little, I'm fortunate enough to have a little runabout. I go catch a few fish with the kids, awesome. So just a normal bloke cover, that's all. You get out on the farm?
Well, with the family don't have farms anymore. There's a big farm around the Quarry, I suppose, but those big farm estates they had back in the 90s, they don't have today. But I still enjoy the country. I enjoy getting out there and just getting out in the bush and getting away from something a bit different, eh? Because whilst this is so enjoyable, it's pretty full on, and we've all got to reset at times. I mean, that's me, because I'm...
awesome. I just, because I know you as jet setting all over the place to each of the dealerships and running around, and so there's got to be more to it, but I had to ask the question.
No, you're right.
I cannot thank you enough for your time today.
No, it's been a pleasure.
And the insight into it. I can't wait to hear more about all of the machines. I know there's going to be a lot more Hydrorex coming out, and we'll do some walkarounds and get an insight into those. But thank you so much to David. Thanks for your time for watching, and looking forward to hearing more about it in the very near future.
Looking forward to it, mate. Thanks for your time, mate.
Thank you.
Good on you, mate.
Awesome.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Ta-da.